하겠습니다. Good morning. Before the class begins, here's the thing. At the pace we're moving, all the lectures I have for the first half before the midterm will be completed next Monday. So I talk about education today, and next Monday I've finished talking about education, which leaves us with Wednesday class, next Wednesday class, sort of not anything planned. So there are two ideas. One is we move up the midterm exam to Wednesday, next Wednesday, and have the Monday that was scheduled for the midterm exam a break for you so that you could prepare for other exams. Is that better? But if we stick with the original schedule, next Wednesday I will not have a regular class, but I will show you a couple of videos, documentaries on Korea. Educational, of course. Which would you prefer? First one? Anyone with a schedule problem? That would be too complicated. Yeah? I would say at least one third of the questions will come from the textbooks. At least, I said. Okay. Wow. Well, maybe it was not a good idea to bring it up. Because I don't think everyone will be happy, right, with a change, if we do make a change. So why don't we just go with the original schedule? Pardon? Can we what? Oh, vote. What about the class students who are not here? 혹시 할 수 있어요, 그거? 웹사이트에 그 날짜 변경하는 거를 여기 지금 수업 듣는 학생들한테 그 채팅 하는데 한번 좀 올릴래요? 줌. 네, 거기에 이제 지금 얘기한 대로 다음 주 수요일 날로 이제 exam 데이트를 바꾸고, 그리고 원래 exam 하기로 했던 24일은 no class. 그거를 prefer하냐? 아니면 그냥 오리지널 스케줄로 가는 거. 그 오리지널 스케줄은 대신 다음 주 수요일 날 다큐멘터리를 보는 거죠. 그래서 그거를 vote 해가지고 그러면 okay, we're having students vote on this issue. At least for this, for those of you who are here, I'll do the voting, okay? Number one is the proposed change, where the exam takes place next Wednesday, and the original scheduled date for exam, 24th, no class, so that you prepare for other exams, okay? Number one. And the number two is going with the original schedule, where next Wednesday we will see a couple of documentaries on Korea. And the exam will take place as originally scheduled on 24th. Okay, number one, the changed dates. Yeah? So new proposal, your exam will take place next Wednesday, which is 19th. All right, hands up again. Count all the way up. All the way up so that she can see. So it's not just the votes based on the students attending today's class, but online too, right? So 좀 써놔요. And those who like the originally scheduled exam date, ooh. Wow, by a very slight margin, students are preferring the changed format, the dates. Okay, education, and I'll make an announcement at the end of today's class, all right? Yes? Oh, that's not possible. And I'll tell you in advance, you're not allowed to bring your cell phone. You cannot take it out. You know why I say that? I don't know about your universities back home, but in Korea, we have this really terrible tradition where senior students keep track of all the exam questions and pass them on to their 후배. So I don't want that to happen. Not that I'll be using the same exam over and over, but there will be definitely questions that overlap, right? So anyone caught with the cell phone out, disqualified, will be invited to leave the classroom. So this is a very strongly worded, I don't want to say warning, but advisory, okay? And it'll take place in person in this particular room. Anyway, if you have any more questions about the exam, I'll maybe save about the last 5 minutes so that we could have some discussions about the midterm exam. Okay? Okay. So on Monday, we finished up talking about gender inequality and then started talking about education, and I ended with sort of a long introduction to this issue of Korean education. And today, we'll talk about some facts related to Korean education, followed by, and if you want to, if you are interested in some of the educational facts about Korea, is that there is this education fever, obsession, okay? So why? So the reasons for education fever, that section we focus on why this is happening in Korea, okay? I mean, concern with education may be universal, but again, as always with Korea, the difference is not of kind, but of degree, right? And in Korea, it's just overwhelming, okay? It's just exhaustive, it's universal, you cannot escape from it. You have no right to be a bad student, because if you do have bad grades, you know, the society just makes you feel terrible. And that's the society Koreans are living in, and we'll try to understand why that is the case. And then that'll be followed by, education, obsession with education did have some positive consequences, okay? So I'd like you to be aware of those. But there are definitely more negative impacts. Well, it's up to you to think. Do positive consequences outweigh negative impacts, or the other way around, right? All right. I didn't get to show you this in the introductory part on Monday, but this is a cartoon that was featured on Children's Day. You know, we have, I don't know how many countries have this, but we have a Children's Day that is public holiday. We have a day off, okay? Any countries where you have the same type of a tradition? So we have this. Maybe, I guess the policymakers realize that Korean children need at least one day of the year where they can have a break. Okay, and it goes like this. It's Children's Day, and the child goes, let's go to an amusement park. And the father goes, I guess a day off on Children's Day is okay. And he takes a key out, and he takes the shackle off. The shackle represents private education. Okay? So this is a quite telling cartoon. So the questions I want you to think about are these. Well, it's sort of captured in the lecture outline. What are the characteristics of education in Korea? Why are Koreans fixated on education? What are the positive consequences of Koreans' preoccupation with education? And what are the negative consequences of education frenzy in Korea? There's a missing. Okay, education, facts. So there are some are really basic stuff, okay, like this. So we have a formal school system. This is definitely a Western influence because we didn't really have college education before the influence or prior to Western influence. Okay, so this is sort of universal now, right? So 6334, and education in Korea is mandatory with no tuition fee up to grade 12. But it hasn't been that long that we have implemented this. So here we go. We offered compulsory primary education since 1957. Okay, so prior to 1957, you had to pay tuition to attend elementary school. But from 1957, compulsory means no fee, okay? Everything is pretty much provided for free. And we offered the same for middle school since only 2004. So until 2004, families had to pay tuition. So some poor families could not go to junior high school. Okay? And from the second semester of 2021, so it's only been like 2 years since our government has been offering high school education as compulsory, meaning no fee. Okay? And another nice thing, in some regions, lunch is free. And Korean lunch with rice. It's really good stuff. And children are enjoying all that for free, and I think that's really nice. Second fact, Korean education in Korea is provided, it's becoming more universal, okay? Or should we say universal, okay? But what's interesting is the proportion or the ratio of public and private schools in Korea, and it's just better to show you this graph, and it's just amazing. I don't know how many other countries will have a similar pattern, but as you can see, at the elementary education level, almost every school is public, okay? 98.7%. but the ratio falls to about 77% at the middle school level. And that falls further to about half at the high school level. I'm talking about the ratio of public schools. And at the university level, only about 15% of universities are publicly run or operated. Do you know of any other country that has sort of a similar pattern? What about the USA? It's just my guess, right? In the US, not as small as this, but I think the number of private universities outnumber public. And I think that's rather unique because in most, at least in Europe, most universities tend to be public and well, I don't know about developing countries, but again, 84% of universities being private, I think that's probably one of the highest in the world. Okay? Third fact, relatively large number of tertiary education institutes, 395. This is a breakdown, but I think if you look at the next slide, you'll see that we do have a relatively large number of colleges and universities. And here we go. So these are the countries with the largest number of universities as of 2021. So India has the largest number of universities in the world, over 5,000, right? Korea has about 400, right? The population of India is nearly 30 times larger than that of Korea. But if you look at the number of universities, 15 times, 14 times, 16 times. No, 17. Anyway, you can see how, in terms of this population size, I think, well, another country that has a large number of universities in view of its population total is actually the United States. Okay? Its population there is 330 million, and yet they have that many universities. And one noticeable fact here is actually China. With a population slightly larger than India, the number of universities in China, not even half that of India. So I think if you're looking for any kind of industry that will really increase big time, I think it's post-secondary education in China. But maybe that will not happen really because of its political reality, right? Anyway, move on. Fourth fact in Korea regarding education, more females are enrolling in colleges. And I think this is getting to be almost universal, right? It is definitely true in, I would say, every industrialized nation. But at least in Korea, it began to happen since 2009. Okay, so the pink shaded figures represent female high school graduates moving on to college education, and I'm sure it's the same. It was the same last year. Fifth educational fact is the decline in the number of students due to record low fertility rate. So, you know, second topic after the midterm exam is aging in Korea. So as you may know, Korea is the most rapidly aging society in the world, and that's largely due to the low fertility rate, right? And so just looking at in the near future, the future college students will drop by about 1/3 by 2030. Okay, so universities are in big trouble right now because of there are just not enough students. So yes, this is not a problem for prestigious universities and universities inside the capital region. Okay, but universities in the countryside, they're failing to fill even half of the student quotas. And this is, again, it is said that by about 2050, okay, that's, just what, two and a half decades later, 1/3 of the universities could easily be gone. Just not enough students. And I think this will just show you how rapidly population is falling in Korea. Okay, back in 1970, that's about 50 years ago, right? The total number of births in 1970 was over 1 million. Again, in just that year, in 1970 alone, there were over 1 million births. Move your time to present time, 2022. The number of total births has been not just halved, but fell to 1/4 of what it was 50 years ago. Okay? Do you know of any other country that has similar experience? I mean, yes, Japan is also a rapidly aging society in the world, but we are beating Japan bad. Does Korea like beating Japan in any kind of thing? But this is not a good thing. It's a terrible thing, okay? And again, total number of births falling to about a 1/4 level of the 1970 figure. Okay? So that's why this has a direct impact on colleges and universities. So all the this large number of universities in Korea, not a good thing at this point. 6 educational fact is the increase in the number of multicultural students. So you may think, why would the Korean government spend money and effort to get this kind of a data? But we're getting these data because everything is so new. Korea is one of the very few countries, I don't know if there's any other country other than maybe Japan, where ethnic homogeneity is as high as Korea was until like the 1980s. I'm not talking about mixed DNAs and mixed whatever, but I'm just talking about so when we talk about these multicultural children, we're talking about children born to Korean nationalities. So they would have a Korean mother or father or Korean parent and a parent who is non-Korean, right? So again, we have these sort of a separate data because it is so new, okay? And of course, in a country like the USA, they would have, they would have something similar where they would have a racial breakdown, right? Or sometimes ethnic breakdown. But again, for Korea, it's very new, and it's new, and also it's happening at a very rapid rate, okay? So when I get to talk about multicultural reality of Korea, I will talk about how and why we have many migrant brides coming to Korea to live, okay? So for the first time, So we have that many multicultural children. So this is the total number of students, and the proportion reached the 3.3% mark for the first time. And well, I'll get to talk more about this later, but do you think multicultural students are doing well at school? No. Their dropout rate at high school is about 50%. And it's definitely one of racism on the part of Korean students. And at the same time, they're not at the same academic aptitude level as Korean students, because these multicultural children typically belong to lower socioeconomic class. So they don't have enough money to go to private academies. So they're disadvantaged. Okay? All right, and so by looking at these multicultural children, and if we look at the nationality of their parent, the largest proportion is Vietnamese. So meaning almost 1/3 of all the multicultural children would have a Vietnamese mother or father, okay? Almost 1/3. And it's followed by Chinese, 24%, followed by, and the third most numerous is the Filipino parent, and the next most popular is Korean Chinese, okay, or Joseonjok. And the fifth largest is Japanese. That's quite surprising, right? And it's not proven with any or validated with any data, but rumor has it that we have many Japanese mothers or fathers who happen to have married Koreans based on their faith. And what faith am I talking about? The Unification Church. Have you heard of the mass weddings they do? The Unification Church? Okay, well, this is a good time. Write down Unification Church and find out what that church is about. It's a church founded by a Korean, and he is now dead, but his church is considered a cult because he preached that he's sort of a second Jesus Christ. And again, the church is best known for mass weddings of like 6,000, 10,000 in a like stadium or a large arena. And these people have never met each other, couples that is. Okay? And well, he has a very unique philosophy. Okay? He said he wanted to do all these mass weddings, marrying Korean with an African person, Japanese with an American person, because he believed that the world is corrupt and is full of turmoils because we are racially impure. There are blacks, whites, there are Asians, and so on, right? All of these happen because, according to him, Jesus Christ died without leaving children. So all of us are racially impure. So he wanted to mix all these races and ethnic groups up to create one race. Again, isn't that an interesting idea? So that's why, again, mass weddings, thankfully no longer, because he's dead. But anyway, look it up and you'll get some interesting ideas. Seventh sort of educational fact is that we have mandatory school uniforms for students in middle and high schools. Again, I don't know of any school that has, well, yeah, there are exceptions. Exceptions are alternative schools, okay? And there are very, very few of those, right? But other than that, typically every middle school and high school uniform. You know, when I was growing up, I was really against this idea because I thought it stifled sort of individual rights to wear or whatever. But as I became more mature, I realized that at least in Korea, this is the way to go. Because I think Korean parents always wanting to sort of, you know, dress their kids with all these brand name clothings and so on, you will see their class background being played out with their clothings or whatever, right? So I think, at least in Korea, uniforms is a way to go. It's really a must, I think, okay? So that everyone could be equal, at least in terms of their attire, okay? Anyone with a different thought? Well, you can find me, just kidding. You can see how packed the school classroom was back in the 1960s and 70s, eh? And it was that packed. Eighth, relatively high cost of college education, and I could only find data on public universities. So, do you know which country has the highest public university tuition fee in the world? Again, public university. Number one? What comes to your mind right away to this question? US? No, it's number two. Number one is very close. England, okay? At 12,000, over 12,000. United States, given the fact that, of course, when you say public universities in USA, it refers to in-state student, right? So if you apply as an out-state student, the tuition fee doubles, triples, right? At least. But again, I couldn't find data that sort of has an overall average. Okay, if there was an overall average, number one would be definitely the USA. Okay, because I think private universities, even the ones sort of you may not have heard of, they charge what, $30,000 to $40,000 a year, something like that, at least. Yeah. Wow. How do you live? Okay. And it's too bad Biden's effort to do the student debt forgiveness. Oh, it worked. It worked out for you. Oh. Hmm. Wow. Anyway, so 30,000 is something you can never expect from a private university in the USA. Okay. Anyway, I think the high tuition fee at private universities in the USA, infamous, right, to say the least. And then there are these countries, no tuition fee. Or has there been a change? Anyone from Poland? Anyone from Norway, Finland? Still the same? Zero. Well, just for university education, we should all live in Finland. Just kidding. And, well, even countries like France and Germany, tuition fee almost zero, right? $200 and so on. All right, now the last 2 points, I sort of saved the last two for last because it directly sort of takes us into the next section, why the Koreans' obsession with education, right? And these data show that Koreans are obsessed with education, okay? So here we go. Korea boasts one of the world's highest, if not the highest. And I think, well, it shows it to be the highest, right? World's highest high school graduation rate, okay? So here we go. Korea right here. And it's the highest among OECD countries. And, you know, I don't know if you could come up with any country that is not a member of the OECD that could have a higher high school graduation rate. Okay? And then this is the last one. Korea has the world's highest college enrollment rates. Okay? For example, as of 2022, last year, 73.3% of high school graduates in Korea enrolled in colleges. Okay? So here we go. And our record is from 2005, when whopping 82.1% of high school graduates went on to college education. Now, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but whenever I show the audience, let's say, this, I'm not bragging that, oh, we have this so many Koreans, high school grad. Why? You know, developing countries, many developing countries suffer from what is called undereducation. That is, not enough people go to high school, not enough people go to college. So country is always in short supply of talented people who could steer the economy in the right direction. Now, in contrast, what Korea suffers from is what is called over-education. No matter how advanced an economy is, you don't need 80%, 70% of high school graduates moving on to college education. Okay? A conservative estimate is about 40%. That is really good for the economy and sort of a necessary a figure is about 40%. But we have all these extra number of college graduates, and the problem is after the graduation. What jobs what jobs could they get with all the college degrees, right? So this is from 2016. Korea right up there, number one, compared to other industrialized nations, USA 46, France 44, and so on. Okay? So they're doing good. But I don't know if this is still correct, but I think it's slightly higher for the USA today. In fact, Korea boasts one of the world's highest tertiary education attainment rates, 5th highest for this age 25 to 64, and the only reason why Korea is number 5 is because it includes those above the age of, let's say, 50 and 60, right? And when they were in their late teens and early 20s, we simply didn't have enough universities, okay? because we were developing economy. We just simply didn't have enough universities. So even if they wanted to go, they couldn't go. Okay? So, well, it's all going to change. By 2065, 61.9% of the total population will have a college degree, highest in the world. Okay? And I mean, if you go back to this graph, for the 25 to 34-year-old group, Korea is already number one. Okay? Number one, right? And here we go, same thing. Number one for the 25 to 34-year-olds, 2021, highest in the world at near 70%. And this is for 55 to 64, and you know, again, that's the only age group where Korea does not have a good sort of a figure to boast. Okay. All right, and next is the reasons for the education. So we have seen enough, right? Especially the last 2 points, right? The high school graduation rate, world's highest, and the world's highest college enrollment rate, right? So both indicate that Koreans have this very strong interest in, you know, education, right? So the question is, why? And I will entertain some comments first before I share with you what I have. Why do you think that, you know, Koreans have this very strong interest in getting at least a college education? Yes. Okay. Thank you. I think to this question, everyone, you know, the Confucianism should have entered your thought right away. Can we take a little, because I want to see how many people actually had this Confucianism, you know, pop up. Anyway, go ahead. It's okay. Okay, Confucianism. What else? Well, you can say for fun, number one reason, Confucianism. Number two, Confucianism. Number three, Confucian philosophy. Number four, Confucian teaching. Yes. How? Oh. Yes, yes. Competitive job market. I think that's a very good one, although I don't know if I have it listed here, but I think it's competitive job market, which is universal, but it's worse here. Yes. So it's sort of it was a government-driven sort of. Oh, okay. Education as a means of success. Well, it's something I'll think about. 그 government-driven. 그 경제 발전을 위해서. Oh, okay. So thank you. Anyone else? Yes. Capitalism. Wow, that's. I think it's a little bit too broad. So maybe if we could sort of think more about this, sort of driven by the desire to get ahead, to make more money. Well, it's all about the success, right? Anyway, anyone else? Last call. Okay. Let's see, what do we have here? Koreans' preoccupation with education spring from 5 factors, at least the ones I have. First is cultural importance of Confucianism. Education as a status symbol. So this is what I'm talking about. Unless you have a college degree in Korea, you sort of don't get to socialize much because you always feel ashamed of not having a college degree. Okay? Third, education as a means of success. Fourth, discriminate. So you get college degree because you don't want to be discriminated. Okay? Fifth, academic elitism and nepotism. And this is where the sky phenomenon comes in. Okay? Unless you get a degree from a prestigious university, you sort of get discriminated. And that may be true elsewhere, but it is much more pronounced in Korea. Okay? It's almost like graduates from Sky Universities wearing a badge, KU, and walking around with that badge for the rest of their lives. They would wear that badge even to public bathroom. Just kidding. Anyway, we'll talk one by one at greater length. Okay, 5 factors. First, cultural importance of Confucianism. You know, I think you've probably heard enough about Confucianism, right? But what can we say? Koreans' overriding concern with education is a direct influence of Confucianism. Confucianism can be understood as a, remember this from when I talked about Korean values under education? Same thing. Confucianism can be understood as a religion of learning. And there's that famous quote, right? A piece of jade cannot become an object of art without chiseling. And human cannot come to know the moral law without education. Okay? Confucian ideal assumes that good education makes good men. You know, it's a quote, right? And that good men make good government. That is why the past dynasties in Korea, as was done in China and for a limited time in Japan, recruited individuals to serve in the government on the basis of passing the rigorous civil service exam. Okay? Now, do you know of any other country in the history of humanity where they had a civil service examination, again, to recruit government employees? Exam. In the case of China, they did it in the 6th century. Korea, 10th century. Okay? All because of the influence of Confucius teaching. Okay? That people who serve in the government, they must be educated so that they become more moral. Okay? That they are better at carrying out government duties. Okay? And Confucian teachings also emphasized sagehood, okay? A model of self-transcendence and high calling of the gentleman, okay? So that's why, because education was so emphasized, what suffered because of this was the labor. Okay? Confucianism traditionally looked down on labor because highest calling of a gentleman was to learn, was to teach, was to read books and to write. So they looked down on people who did manual labor, okay? And that tradition still continues to this day, okay? That's why scholars in Korea are very respected. I'm talking about professors, more than so in the West, I would say, right? Because of Confucianism. And why do you think Koreans shun factory work? That's because, again, this Confucian emphasis on learning, all right? Second, education as a status symbol. Universities' degrees are thought of as lifelong stamps of intellectual competency. Over the years, university degree attainment has become the norm, the minimal educational standard which people are expected to attain to be socially recognized. So failure to do so leads to one's loss of faith, low self-esteem, shame, and in extreme cases, avoiding meeting new people. Okay? As I said before, when Koreans meet, after 2-3 hours, you get to learn about each other's birth year. What region you're born in, or what region you were born in, and where you got your university degree. So this college education is so taken for granted. It's almost like they don't sort of think, could this person not have a college degree? It's always like right out, you know, where'd you get your degree from? So that's why in some extreme cases, people would just not meet new people. Okay? So the reason why college enrollment is so high in Korea is because Korean culture has created a cultural milieu in which an individual becomes a complete, socially acceptable, and socially recognized person only after getting a college degree. So we put a bar this high where everyone is expected to get a college degree. That's why it's in daily conversation. When people meet for the first time, it's something that they get to talk about. Okay? And so, the reason why so many Koreans go to college is because they don't want to be discriminated just because they didn't have a college degree. Okay? That they will not be socially recognized because they didn't get a college degree. Okay? And I don't know how many other countries you know have the same sort of a way with education. Okay? Third factor is the education as a sole means of success. Koreans strongly believe that one needs to graduate from a university to succeed in Korean society, and you cannot blame them, right? And it's tied to the next point, where we have this education-based discrimination that'll just blow your mind as to how this is so, like, maybe it's universal, but again, we just do it more damagingly, okay? So there's this strong belief in the university job success formula, right? So if Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and who's that Facebook guy? Zuckerberg. What's his first name? Mark Zuckerberg. And what about Bezos? Did he graduate or did he quit? Anyway, these trio are well known for their ingenuity, but at the same time, they also quit. They didn't get to graduate, right? Now, if they were born in Korea, do you think they would have quit before graduating from the top university? No way in hell. And that's all tied to this whole education obsession, right? According to a study in 2014, the #1 reason for enrolling in universities was to get a good job, to develop one's abilities and skills, to avoid discrimination, and wow. So there's a nice pie graph. And there's the phenomenon of spec, which is an abbreviated derivative of the word specification. It refers to one's qualification for jobs. The expression is used to highlight how Korean students and graduates try very hard to improve their qualification by obtaining all kinds of certificates and licenses, working as interns, participating in academic events, and so on. Spec. Okay. Fourth, discrimination based on educational credentials. This may be, universal, but again, it happens at a more pronounced level in Korea. Education-based discrimination occurs at two levels. One is in Korean, 학력. So it refers to the level of education. So whether you have a college degree or just a high school diploma, there is a discrimination there, right? And I think this is quite true in many other countries as well. But we have something, what is called 학벌. And it is the discrimination based on alma mater. Okay? So again, this may be true in your country too, but it just happens much more extensively in Korea. It's almost like an open discrimination. Whether you are a graduate from a prestigious university or not, it makes a huge difference. Okay? It's so much so that interview may not matter. Just by this point that this person has a degree from SNU, for example. And even if the person did not do so well on the interview stage, he or she will still get the job because he or she has a degree from SNU, for example. Okay? And that's Korea. Okay? And again, I think even this, we just do it to an extra degree. Okay? This is a good example. At this company, with the 11-level seniority system, those with a high school diploma would start at the lowest level, grade 11. But those with a college degree would start at grade 8, even if they're doing the same work. And you know why this is really hurtful? Because for this person with high school diploma doing the same work, takes 10 years to be promoted to the grade 8. Again, for doing the same work, maybe in the West, a person with a college degree may get a little bit more, right, in terms of salary, but I don't think they'll be subjected to this kind of discrimination, right? Am I right on that? But this happens in Korea, okay? So this is 학력-based discrimination. So degree-based, is it degree-based? And 학벌-based discrimination. So in the West and elsewhere, glass ceiling is often used to refer to gender discrimination, racial discrimination, and ethnicity-based discrimination, right? On top of that, in Korea, we also have education-based discrimination, where if you are a graduate of a lesser prestigious universities, you're faced with glass ceiling. Just because you are a graduate of a not so prestigious university, you get discriminated in not only hiring, but also promotion as well. Huh? That's reality. And a survey in 2015 showed that the most serious form of discrimination in Korea is education. So there you go. If the respondents were allowed to choose multiple answers, the number one education would be much, much higher. Okay, but this one, they had to just choose one. Okay? So again, if they were even given 3 choices, the education would be easily 70–80%, I would say. Okay? You know, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, wow, this would be an excellent question for multiple choice questions, right? I'll put something not listed here, and I would say, which one is not listed? Oh, since I brought up this issue of exam, and I'll put that in the actual exam as well. There may be some questions where you may think, wow, this is not what I know to be true. But what ultimately is true is what I said in class and what is said in the textbooks. You know what I'm saying? So you got to base your judgment on what I said and what is written in the textbooks. Okay? That's the only way it could be fair, so that there's no controversy, right? Similar surveys in Europe show that for Europeans, the most serious forms of discrimination pertain to race and ethnicity, age, physical handicap, and sexual orientation. Now, okay. Are you all taking it in? Okay. All right, last point, and I'll let you go after this, and we'll get to the survey, poll on the exam date. The last one is academic elitism and nepotism, and I'll try to make it as short as I can. So, if you felt that, if you already observed that, yes, Koreans are a little bit different because they're so preoccupied with education, and it's not just education, right? It's really this desire to go to a prestigious university, especially SKY universities, okay? Because alumni of these 3 universities in particular, because they have a very strong alumni network, okay? Now, see, I have a degree from University of Toronto. If let's say I have a job interview, it'll be like, oh, hi, I also have a degree from U of T. Nice to meet you. But that's it. But here, if you go somewhere for a job interview and you go, I'm a SNU graduate, the bond is made right away. Okay? And you don't have to know the other person. It's just there. Okay? And so the alumni bond network in Korea, I think, is probably the strongest in the world. Because what kind of a person you are doesn't really matter, at least in the beginning, okay? It's just, again, there's this immediate bond, and it brings a lot of fringe benefits, okay? So if so many CEOs of stock-listed companies are graduates of SNU, how is that possible? Because they're good, that good? How can you tell that they're good, right? But who chooses CEOs? Board of directors. And board of directors are comprised largely of graduates of what universities? SKY, especially Seoul National Universities. Okay? So you want to see how SNU just totally dominates? So some people call this modern form of caste system, because once you have a degree from SNU, you take that to your grave. Everyone will say, oh, you know, he's a SNU graduate. SNU graduate. So he or she is advantaged at the marriage market and at jobs, at promotions, and again, just almost blindly, okay? Do I sound like I'm sort of being jealous? No. I've never been disadvantaged in my lifetime, but if I was, I would be bitter. But I'm bitter as a sociologist because I want the society to be better, to be kind and more humane, and to be more caring of those who are not so good getting good grades and so good at memorizing things. Okay? And I'm also very concerned with this low fertility rate. If anybody asks me why, you know, Korean women are not having babies, number one reason is educational inequality, and nobody is addressing this, sadly speaking. Anyway, here we go. I already mentioned this, right? Strong network of alumni, and there you go, SKY. You know, I've sort of looked at these numbers, and SNU graduates, they amount to no more than 1% of all the people with college degrees. And yet, look at this. They comprise about 1/4 of all the professors, nearly 30% of the National Assembly members, and 85% of all the Supreme Court judges are SNU graduates. Does that make sense? In your country, 85% of Supreme Court judges since the founding of your country from one damn university. But this is happening in Korea. And what else? Currently, 24 out of 28 Chief Justice judges of district courts, SNU graduates. So, and the list goes on, goes on. And there's what is called power elite, you know, which includes the assistants to the president, ministers, vice ministers, and heads and directors of all these important positions. Look at this. Currently, SNU comprises about half of the power elite. Okay? The previous administration, 40%. In 2017, it was as high as 61%. 박근혜, 50%. I'm not talking about SKY. I'm talking about SNU. So from today on, please repeat after me. Don't say SKY. You got to say SKY. That is reflective of the reality. I'm serious, okay? Often the three universities are grouped together, but that's not fair because SNU is much more advantaged than KU and Yonsei University put together, okay? So whether it's CEOs, whether it's professors, whatever criteria you look at, number one is always SNU, number 2, 3, Korea, Yonsei, not even half of SNU put together. Okay? So again, once again, SKY. Okay? So this is the very reason, because blind preferential treatment of the prestigious universities is the reason why Korean mothers. So you think Korean students or children are born with this desire? No, it's the mothers who socialize them. Why? They have experienced this extensive discrimination based on 학벌, right? So they brainwash their children that if you want to succeed in Korea, you got to study hard so that you could enjoy all the benefits of being the graduates of these top universities. And that's why if you read the chapters in the textbooks, you get, things like Korean mothers, education managers, alpha mom, beta mom. What do they refer to? All highly educated mothers, just totally concerned with their children's education. They are relentless in collecting information about their children's education. Okay? So if the mothers in the West get together to talk about their children, in Korea it's about getting information. Okay? And there's also a term, helicopter mother, like, revolving around the children, like helicopter. And there's also a term, 치맛바람. So all of these neologisms show how Korean mothers are much more actively involved with the education or educational success of their children compared to, let's say, mothers in the West. Okay? In addition to providing comfort and counseling, Korean mothers definitely do much, much more for their children's education than the mothers elsewhere, from what I understand. Anyway, I'll stop here and we'll do the... Oh. Okay, I have a final tally on the proposed change in the dates of exam. Well, believe it or not, we'll go with the original schedule. And that's so we, with, being a democracy, what can I say? Okay, so I'll remind you what will happen, okay? So there's a regular class next Monday, finishing up education. Wednesday, you don't have to show up for class, okay? Because I will play the videos, documentaries online, Zoom, and I will have my TA put a notice on the blackboard as to how to access the Zoom account. And it'll be on time, right? From 9 to 10:15 next Wednesday. And the exam will take place as scheduled on 24th, on Monday. And after the exam, I'm sorry, but we just will have a regular class, okay? All right, thank you.